Examine the success of any titan of industry, whether it be Carnegie and his mountains of steel, or Rockefeller and his sea of oil, and you will find a coveted green commodity fueling their industry: money. And in the late 1800s, one man controlled more of it than any other: John Pierpont Morgan. To understand the vast scope of Pierpont's influence, we must first rewind to a time long before America was an economic powerhouse with a $21 trillion GDP. It's all too easy to forget that America was once an emerging market, one that, not too long ago, was almost entirely dependent upon British capital. So, without further ado, let's explore the story of how a combination of timing, genius, and connections made J.P. Morgan the most powerful man in the history of American finance. This episode of American Titan would not have been possible if it wasn't for our friends at Acorns, an investment app that automatically rounds up your credit and debit card transactions to the nearest whole dollar and then auto-invests that spare change for you into a diversified portfolio. Stay tuned until the very end to learn more, or sign up now and claim your sign-up bonus of $5 by going to acorns.com/BC. The link is on screen now and in the video description below. Typically, we begin someone's life story at birth, but the story of J.P. Morgan cannot be told without mentioning the influential family that brought him up. Pierpont's grandfather, John Pierpont, was a radical and fiery preacher and would introduce his grandson to the power of forceful speaking, a skill that would later pay dividends for the future captain of industry. But a far more towering and instrumental figure in Pierpont's life was his father, Junius Spencer Morgan. Junius was a highly respected businessman in both the American and European banking industry, and he largely took it upon himself to shape his son into his own cool and collected image, grooming the young boy to inevitably join the family banking business. No other man comes close to having the same kind of impact on Pierpont's life than his beloved father, although their father-son relationship is probably best described as tough love, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. John Pierpont Morgan was born into this privileged life on April 17, 1837, with every advantage that could be given to prepare him for what was to come. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for the young Morgan. He was a sickly child. As an infant, he suffered from seizures, and as he grew older, was often plagued with rheumatic fever, scarlet fever, and painful migraines. But certainly his most visible medical complication was his acne rosacea, which severely inflamed and ruptured the blood vessels of his nose. Lacking treatment in the mid-1800s, his condition progressively worsened, transforming his nose from unsightly to a disfigured red and purple monstrosity. Although you certainly wouldn't know that by looking at most pictures of J.P. Morgan, which is the way he wanted it to be. According to his great-grandson, anytime Morgan commissioned a portrait or photo of himself, he demanded that his gargantuan nose be touched up after the fact, essentially the 1800s equivalent of Photoshop. Pierpont's various medical problems required isolation, turning him into somewhat of a loner. Unable to play outside like most of the other kids, Pierpont stayed inside, where he spent his time studying and learning to read financial statements. In the rare moment that he wasn't absorbing information, Pierpont found comfort in playing the card game Solitaire, a pastime that became one of his lifelong pleasures. Back in the classroom, Pierpont was a natural leader. He would often challenge his teachers and, using logic, talk them down from punishing him. As he went through school, his leadership skills caught the eye of his seemingly impossible-to-please father, Junius, who would focus his energies on helping Pierpont cultivate his promising potential for the business world. Influenced by his father's success, Pierpont became fascinated with successful men and made a habit of collecting autographs from presidents and other famous figures. His fascination with powerful leaders led him to write a school essay on Napoleon Bonaparte. And although his parents tried to introduce him to American heroes, Pierpont was solely impressed with Napoleon and heavily inspired by the general's insatiable appetite for global power, an idea that struck a chord with the future leader. On October 1st, 1854, Pierpont's father, Junius, was made partner at the London-based financial firm George Peabody and Company. Soon after, the Morgan family relocated.
Kralja Sejonga povijest pamti kao vladara koji je uveo sve korejsku abecedu. S pomoću jedinstvenog pisma želio je stvoriti temelje korejskog kulturnog identiteta. Gotovo 6 stoljeća poslije, uz famoznu 38. paralelu, postoje dvije oprečne stvarnosti. Dva društva koja se služe istim pismom, ali govore drukčijim jezikom. Isti im je i strah od onoga drugoga.
북한 군대가 남한에 대해서 매우 적대적이기 때문에 북한이 민주화로 간다고 했을 때 북한 군대가 저항할 가능성이 높습니다. 그래서 통일은 적어도 앞으로 20년이나 30년 이내에는 현실적으로 불가능할 것이라고 봅니다.
Korejski rat na jugu poluotoka odavno pripada povijesnim udžbenicima. Tijekom samo jedne generacije nekad siromašna i opustošena zemlja izrasla je u četvrtu najveću azijsku ekonomiju. Glad za znanjem i inovacijama, kao i fascinantna disciplina i radne navike, postale su dio genske karte Južne Koreje.
There has been a long belief among Koreans that education can change your life. If you study hard, you can change your social position. And I think this belief has encouraged a lot of Korean population to invest their time and money into education, I think.
Zemlja koja je ogledni primjer dobitnika globalizacije izvan svojih granica jaše na suvremenom korejskom kulturnom valu. Unutar njih i dalje promiče tradiciju kao temelj svakodnevnog života. Jejdo, južnokorejski Wall Street. Poslovni neboderi prošlih su desetljeća nicali kao gljive poslije kiše. Ubrzana industrializacija i modernizacija zemlje nakon Korejskog rata stvorili su temelje za prosječan godišnji rast od 7% tijekom pola stoljeća. Čudo na rijeci Han, termin je kojim se opisuje korejski poslijeratni gospodarski rast s izvozom kao glavnim adutom. Počeci su bili teški, svjedoči tomu i primjer prvog automobila koji se počeo proizvoditi u Južnoj Koreji 1955.
대한민국은 1953년 전쟁을 마치고 나서 사실 기술과 자본이 없던 나라였습니다. 세계에서 가장 가난한 나라 중에 하나가 대한민국이었습니다. 그런데 이제 자동차를 만들어야 되는데 기술도 없고 자본도 없었기 때문에 미군이 버리고 간 집, 윌리스 집을 활용했습니다. 거기서 뜯어낸 엔진과 부품들을 활용했고요. 자동차의 몸체는 기름의 드럼통을 펴서 자동차 차체를 만듭니다.